Hi, I'm Stacy Anderson, also known as the Super Gene. Having lived in 9 cities across 3 continents and counting, Super Gene Unleashed features people from around the world sharing their unfiltered versions of female empowerment. With a 20-year global career in digital marketing, operating as a leader and mentor, and now as a wife and mother of 3, I encourage you to unleash your own Super Gene and become the most empowered version of yourself. Here is your advocate, ally, and confidant. I am ready to inspire you. Let's show the world what it's all about. Welcome back, my fellow Super Genes. I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer it honestly. When was the last time you felt truly alive in your own life? Not just functional, not just keeping up, but actually lit up, energized, present, like you were fully in it. For a lot of high achieving women, that feeling gets further and further away the more successful they become. And nobody talks about it because we're supposed to be grateful. We're supposed to be thriving. We're supposed to look like we're having it all together from the outside, but on the inside, something is quietly running out. Today's guest knows exactly what that costs because she's lived it. She built and sold her first company while raising 4 children before going on to build a C-suite career at 2 of the most powerful agency groups in the world. Alongside it all, she spent more than 15 years studying psychology, neuroscience, human potential, and healing modalities, becoming a therapist and accredited coach to CEOs and celebrities. Somewhere in the middle of all of that, she cracked a code that most high performers never find, which is how to be fully ambitious and fully alive at the same time. Bianca Best is a 2-time best-selling author, serial entrepreneur, broadcaster, and founder of the Human Connection Company. She hosts the Big Impact Show and created Energy Escape System, blending neuroscience, psychotherapy, and energy mastery to transform how leaders connect, perform, and create impact. Bianca's mission is not to help you do more, but it's to help you feel more present, more powerful, more like yourself, all while you're doing it. That is vitality. And that is the Super Gene we're unleashing today. Bianca, welcome to Super Gene Unleashed.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so lovely to reconnect, and our paths crossed while you were in your C-suite career at Publicis. And obviously you not only worked at Publicis, but you worked at WPP, which are 2 massive conglomerates. You've also written 2 best-selling books. You've done it all, solo parenting. So I really want to start this off by asking you, because from the outside, it looks like you have a secret. And I really want to know what that secret is. What is the truth about how you got to where you are today?
The truth is that I fell over a lot in the early days of seemingly having it all. You would have seen me in my mid-30s, and you would have seen somebody who had 4 flourishing children, who'd recently sold a business, who was entering the corporate world and having a lot of impact. The truth is that inside, I was just barely surviving. I've gone through so many extreme burnouts and didn't want to shrink my dreams just because I kept falling over. I had a habit of just getting back on the treadmill and keeping going. And actually that wasn't sustainable and it wasn't what I wanted. And the most cataclysmic collapse that I had was a doctor ended up hospitalizing me for total immune collapse and saying, you're so chronically stressed that your body is starting to shut down now and you really need to do some extreme stress management. And I reacted in a very defensive, very resistant way. And I said, I'm not stressed. I'm not stressed. I'm absolutely living the dream. Look at my fantastic family. Look at my children. Look at my work. Everything is wonderful. It was a real wake-up call because I kept slamming into wall after wall of burnout. Gradually, I started to acknowledge, no, something has to change. And it's not that I'm going to dull down the ambitions that I have. I'm proud of my ambition. I'm proud of the fact that I'm happy to commit to work, but I'd never learned how not to keep on taking more and more and more. And so I'd gone from leaving school and college full of all the optimism of I'm going to take on the world and I'm going to achieve this and this. As I had started achieving and succeeding and really realizing I'm really capable, I just took on more and more and more. Sadly for women, the statistics in the world today are proven that we take on the majority of the emotional labor in the household. So the minute the children come along, I'm trying to be the best mummy. I'm trying to be the best wife. I'm still trying to run the best business, and I want the best body, and I want to eat the best food. And I'm just putting myself under all this pressure. But I didn't realize how much I was actually compromising my own ability to sustain. So I went on a long journey of inner discovery, of really working out how not to burn out. And ultimately, I started to realize that I was just disconnecting from myself in pursuit of just what I thought the world wanted to see and what would prove my worth in the world. And I just realized I needed to stop hurting myself and start listening to myself. Gradually, I started to work out how to thrive. And that's what I teach and inspire other men and women to do today. And it all comes back down to living with integrity and not compromising yourself.
That's insane to hear about the story with the doctor. Just to be super quick and practical, did you have any feelings? What were you feeling when you knew that you burnt out? Just to help maybe some other people identify that.
My burnouts started to get progressively worse and worse and worse. I went from being very high functioning, and then as the children were born, they would come in and there'd be little colds that would come into the house. And you know all about that. You know what it's like with germs and little people. Gradually, the intensity of my burnouts increased, where everyone in the household would have a cold and be a bit sniffly for a couple of days. Mine would turn into full-blown pneumonia. I started to have chronic conditions, skin conditions, and I had something called dermographitism. So I was in this chronic state of inflammation. As I started to get sicker and sicker, I'd start to get tonsillitis, bronchiolitis, conjunctivitis, all the itises. And it was like layering sickness upon sickness upon sickness. I used to just bounce back. I felt ashamed. I felt guilty when I was ill in bed because I couldn't run the business. Someone had to look after the children. I hated myself. I felt so much loathing because I wanted to be doing the work. I wanted to be with the children, but I would literally reach an absolute stasis where I was properly incapacitated. And then I'd lie there in shame and loathe myself. But I gradually started to realize that point where the doctor said, you have to change. It really was only me that was ever going to change anything. And I couldn't carry on at the pace that I was carrying on and doing the breadth of what I was doing. At that point, I had some insane belief that if I had childcare, I would be failing as a mother. So that's an inherited belief that I've got from my family lineage, which is the women don't work. Women look after the children. So I've got a vision in my head of this is what the mother does. I love my children, love being a mother. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this without childcare. So the first business that I set up, I was running it from home while the children were asleep. It grew and it grew and it grew and became a huge global empire. And it was an incredible decade I had running that business where I was just following a passion and an impulse and everything just grew, but for a long period of time without childcare. And so while the business was growing and I had more clients, more and more customers, I was managing it and staff. I had staff coming into the house and we were working around the children. And I thought it was normal to put the children to bed and for me to then go and sit down and just work through the night. I mean, it's insanity. I was hardly sleeping, but I'd been raised in the 80s where the whole philosophy, the common dominant philosophy was work hard, play hard. And so I thought it was cool to be a party girl, cool to work hard. You know, I had just no sense of self. And so when that doctor said, you're having total immune collapse, you need to change stuff, then began a very deep inner journey of really working out, well, actually, what does make me feel healthy and well, and what is vitality to me? Initially, I thought, okay, this is just a physical thing. I'm not looking after myself physically. Therefore, I need sleep. I need more exercise. I need to cut out sugar and alcohol, do all the physical stuff. But that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. So then I start layering in mental stuff. Okay, I need to do more meditation. I need to do more journaling, be more grateful. All of this, what you would read in terms of mindfulness and slowing the brain down, even that for me was performative. It was like, right, I need to go to a Thai monastery and do 2 weeks at the top of a hill and meditate, then I'll be cured. And it was all of this sort of exploratory stuff that really just wasn't working on its own. For me, the epiphany came when I really started to look not just at the physical, not just at the mental, but the entirety, the holistic me, all the different energetic dimensions of me. And I started to understand myself emotionally, spiritually, and yes, physically, and yes, mentally. And I started to really, really study my energy and what was happening to my energy and what would make it expand, what would make it contract. When was I in my sort of rejuvenating stasis modes? I really started to understand myself. I studied and certified in all sorts of different healing modalities and psychotherapy, bioenergetics, all sorts. I started working with clients one-to-one, hosting workshops, and started to build this picture of the fundamental problem in the world today is this disconnection from self. We've shut down our ability to listen to our body's signals, to be aware of what it is that we need. And we're just inundated with information that says, do it this way. And this is what success looks like. And you should be able to do it this way. And we're ignoring actually our inner essence. So the closer I've got back into myself, the stronger my ability to thrive. And that's the whole business that I run now and what I teach.
Wow. I honestly have so many questions for you. It all sounds so incredible. It's really great that you had that wake up call. It's so true that you have to realize it for yourself in order to actually make the change. You said something about how you had to do all this discovery, that you were doing all of these things that also became performative, the journaling, the gratitude, this. That's something that I wanted to say because I think people can feel inundated with having to do all of these things to become a whole person, and that can become stressful. So if you're already stressed and then you're trying to take away the stress by adding in a gratitude practice, a morning meditation, a ice bath, whatever, all the things that people tell you to do, how can someone start simply so it doesn't become so inundated?
You said the magic word. It's simple. It's so, so simple. It's about creating space, stillness, presence, and listening to what your body needs and just truly tuning in to self and creating the space to hear yourself. Today, because of the deluge of information and options for well-being, it can be really confusing, really complicated. And then we can berate ourselves, oh, we're not doing the ice bath at 5 a.m. Whoops. But it's not about that. It's remembering our bio-individuality. We are each unique. We are each beautifully unique. Physically, emotionally, environmentally, we're going to react to stress in different ways. We're going to have different tolerances to different stimulus. It's so important to just ground ourselves back into who we are and to listen and pay attention to ourselves individually. An example is something like coffee. So our culture, the push culture of today, it normalizes, ignore every signal in your body, push on, push on. Caffeine is modern legalized drugs. It's just stimulating the nervous system so unnaturally. It's just a way of pepping ourselves up. But it's about starting to tune in and go, well, actually, how do I respond to caffeine? Does it disturb my sleep? Is it something I want in my life? And becoming really conscious of the choices that you're making and starting to listen to when you need rest. And if the big fat ambition is impact, you have to learn that beautiful, delicate interplay between stress and rest. A bit of stress is really good. It's fantastic to step into spaces where we are out of the comfort zone and we are in that sort of just slight adrenaline state where we're pushing ourselves into new territory and tapping into a bit of courage and a bit of expansion. It's really good to feel the pulse of a little bit of stress. But it's understanding that after that stress, there needs to come a space, a place for rejuvenation and rest. And for that rest not to be performative or to think that going to the pub and having a drink or a big gym workout is rest, unless that really is the way that you rest. But it's really understanding what is truly rejuvenating for you and baking that into your life as an absolute priority, because the whole world and your boss, your children, your team, your partner, everyone is very happy to steal your time, your attention, and fill you up with delivering everyone else's needs and demands. But it's up to us to actually go, hang on, I need this space right now. This is absolutely my sacred time because I'm rejuvenating. If we don't give ourselves that, then we burn out. So I really did learn that the hard way. So I will absolutely break my days and just go and lie down under a tree and meditate. If I feel
I love that. I could feel the emotions in my own body as you were talking about everything here. And I definitely am learning that myself, that balance that you talk about with being full throttle, but then also having the rejuvenation. Earlier in our conversation, you talked about something that I think so many people can relate to, and that is the fact that we as women, the world tells us that exhaustion is a badge of honor. And you even talked about like we're looked at and analyzed. People talk about us behind our back and say, oh, well, if you're running a business and you weren't taking care of your kids, then people would be saying, oh, well, she's totally neglecting her kids. So you were choosing to do both. So it's almost impressive when women are doing so many things. And if you're tired and working so hard, that's what's impressive. Why is that narrative so dangerous? And why do so many brilliant women keep buying it?
the inner decision to perform and conform to a societal expectation often comes from our own defense mechanisms. So we learn as children, if I behave in this way, I will be loved and accepted. If I look at my own patterns of why was I running a business and having the 4 children, what was I doing? I had a husband at the time who could have looked after us all, but I didn't. I pushed on and on and on. And what was that? I've done enough studying myself in my psychotherapy degrees and my studies and through my own therapy and my own counseling to understand it was all part of my insecurity. So the desperate need to prove myself, I gradually started to realize that wanting to impress others, wanting to climb the corporate ladder and slot into the hierarchy at a high level and have the status, that was me buying into societal ideologies around this is what success looks like. And ultimately, it came from me wanting love from my dad, love from my mum. I had my dad who I wanted to see me as this amazing businesswoman, and my mum, I wanted to see me as this amazing mother. So you see the conflict that created in me. Well, build a business and don't have any childcare, boom. It took a long time for me to actually work out, well, who am I and what do I want? The more I started to step into, well, this is what I value and this is a way I can make it work. And I became very, very conscious. I was able to start architecting a life that really was delivering amazing work and still being a loving mother and doing so on my terms. And it took a very long time to really work that out. This is why I write my books and do the teaching that I do to give other women shortcuts, become very, very conscious and aware of where do you feel compromised? Because we should not be compromised. I was compromised physically, mentally, emotionally, constantly compromised, and I wasn't doing anything about it. And if you're emotionally compromised, it means you're shutting down something that matters to you and you're not dealing with it. And I've learned to really deal with whatever stuff is bubbling up that is a trigger. Trigger is any triggers that you are experiencing are actually gold. They are gems that are worth exploring. Because if you're triggered, it means a value is being compromised. And if a value is being compromised, it means it's going to be impossible for you to feel fulfilled. and it means that your energy is being drained. So connect into those triggers, really understand, what are they telling you? What are they clues to? One of the biggest ones for me was getting divorced after a 26-year relationship and 4 children. And that was tough. And that was an emotional trigger that needed to be addressed. And I mean, it took 6 years for that very gently to ensure that we could uncouple gracefully and amicably. But it was painful, but essential, because I started to realize that if we're not in integrity with what we value, with what matters most, we cannot flourish. And if we have ambitions and we want to do amazing work, we have to ground ourselves in all of our strength. And that includes looking after ourselves in every dimension. And just remember that we are these multifaceted beings. We're energetic beings. And it's only us that can actually change our experiences in such a way that we ground ourselves in our power.
Absolutely. Building on that a little bit, I want to know, do you know why some of the most smartest and self-aware people in the room are still burning out? Burnout has become much more well documented lately, and it's become more common, to talk about mental health in the workplace, for instance. So why is it still happening at such a rapid pace? Do you think that it's an ego problem?
I think it's this push culture that we're all invited to assume is normality, that it's normal to push beyond physical or mental boundaries. I think there's that aspect going on. But fundamentally, it's this absolute disconnection from self and a lack of awareness of what actually brings energy, what brings joy, what brings abundance. In my clinic, the number one complaint I have from clients is I don't have enough energy. Now, let's just bring it back to biology. We are human organisms that have the potential to create all the energy that we need to do all the things that we want to do. But only we can actually control that well of energy. When we are operating in honor and reverence of our values, the energy doesn't stop flowing. It's abundant. When we're excited and using our skills, our intellect, and we're doing work that matters in some realm, and it doesn't have to be that you're saving the world from child poverty and that's the only way to get joy. No way. In the corporate roles that I did, I wasn't really wed to digital transformation agendas. That wasn't the big exciting thing. But for me, the big exciting thing was bringing people together and inspiring a common purpose and just infecting organizations with positive relational energy and seeing what good leadership can do and how you mobilize a workforce and how exciting and expansive that is, the creativity of building business momentum. I absolutely love that. So it's finding the aspects of self in the situation and the work that you're in that give you that energy and just over-indexing on that. If I'm coaching someone who's in a role where they feel actually they're close to burnout, they're really not thriving, and they say that it's a choice and that they want to be there and that they want to be in that company and they want to be in that role. But then when we actually break it down, if 80% of their time is spent doing tasks on items that they don't enjoy or necessarily know how to do, or they're working with people that certainly don't vibe with them and make them feel energized, then 80% of their working day is spent in this compromised, contorted, energy draining environment. Whereas it should be the other way. It should be that 80% of the work is just tapping into that endless well of excitement, of joy, of creativity, because we're here to create. I really believe that the purpose for each and every life is to love and to create. If we can do work that taps into that, then work isn't exhausting. Work is endlessly fun and inspiring, and we can't wait to do more. But society's created this condition that it's a linear climb up a particular ladder, and it's about hierarchies and it's about status. And it's not, it's really not. And so we have to do the work to evaluate what brings us that richness of energy and joy, and how much of our lives are spent in that inspired space. it's not hard to work it out. It's becoming conscious and not compromising and really understanding what you can do to get out of situations where you are compromised.
First of all, it sounds so amazing, but in practical terms, like, 'cause we're obviously tapping into everything that you do with Energyscape system, and it's a great blend of what we talked about at the beginning in your intro, the psychotherapy, the neuroscience, the energy mastery. Some people will raise an eyebrow to that. So what would you say to the skeptics in the room? And for some of the people that are like, "Ah, that sounds so wonderful," but at the same time, I'm in my era where unfortunately my job is more task oriented and I really need this paycheck. I can't, afford to quit my job and try to really unearth what brings me joy. What would you say to those people who would like to start bringing more of this into their day to day, but maybe feel a little bit bound by these things that they do need, right?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be macro change. It's not about, well, I've just realized this leadership team that I'm working within doesn't hold the same values as me. Bye, I'm off. It doesn't have to be that. It's about just understanding where you are not being able to be yourself and where you're not giving yourself the presence and the space and the time to just listen to what actually matters most. Multitasking is just such a waste of effort. If you are cooking tea for the children and at the same time you're trying to book a dental appointment and you're trying to reply to an email and supervise homework, you are scattered. Your energy is scattered. Your attention is scattered. So not one task that you're working on will be done to a great degree, and you are just draining and depleting yourself. Science and every study ever done on this has proven your IQ drops by 10 points. If you just focus in on that one task, you just with the children, you're cooking tea together. It is just a sacred moment in the day where it is just love, creation, together time, and you're just there in that moment. That soothes the nervous system in such a way that it is like rest because you get out of that stressed, hyper performing state. You just come into a regulated homeostatic state, which is what our bodies are always trying to bring us back into. But not only that, not only are we out of the stress state and feeling stable and calm, but we hopefully are feeling love and we're with our children. And so we get all the good vibrations and the good frequencies and the good emotions. And so that becomes a very nourishing time. And from that tea time experience, we are then rejuvenated and we feel that capacity to then get back to the laptop later because we feel like we've had a rest, if that is what is rejuvenating. But the ability to just focus and give ourselves pockets of time where we are not scattering attention, it's one of the easiest, simplest gifts that we can give ourselves. So if we're in a task-orientated role where we are bouncing from task to task and it just feels monotonous and it feels as there's not much joy in our hearts, it's really just actually breaking down, what do you value? What could you be contributing? And how much of that could you infuse into those tasks? Is it that the tasks are done collaboratively? Can you bring some joy or connection to the team that you're in or whatever it might be? But what I work with my clients, I break down the days. I break down their weeks. We understand where attention is going, where energy is going. And we just create what we call a conscious calendar where there's a real awareness of, hang on a minute, this is where I'm being pulled and distracted by others. My attention's going over there and that's depleting me versus this is what I'm leaning into that enlivens me. And we just work out how to organize the balance because whatever situation you're in, there will be ways that you can tap into tiny little moments that make you feel better, even if it's like a micro habit, which is just, I'm going to love myself every morning with a glass with lemon in it. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to have a glass of lemon water as I wake up. It's a little thing like that that starts to bring a reminder to us that actually we matter. And that's what's happening. That's what's so wrong in the world today. There is so little sense of self-love and self-reverence because we've all just subsumed to the world of energy slavery, to the boss, to the organization, to the idea of what really matters being a handbag, money. That's not actually what brings the real rejuvenation of soul. It's really understanding what is integrity to you, to me, to anyone listening. Understand what actually matters and organizing life to bring as much of the energizing, joy-filling, good stuff in as possible. Because the more you do it, the more you magnetize more of it to you. It's infectious.
Yeah, it's an absolute boomerang effect. I really like the simple practice of finding one small thing that you could incorporate in your day that makes you feel good, something as simple as a lemon water, because that's actually what I was going to ask you was about, one practice that someone could do to help rejuvenate their energy. I want to shift gears a little bit to the book that you wrote, Big Impact Without Burnout, because obviously that title in and of itself is provocation, and there is a bit of tension there. Can you talk about a little bit when you say that meaningful impact doesn't require self-sacrifice, especially for a woman who has been doing the opposite? What exactly do you mean? Can you share a few tips and tricks about how can one live a life of big impact without reaching that state of burnout?
Fundamentally, I really believe life should not be a struggle. And at the moment it is for too high a proportion of the working world, especially women. The reason we're so out of kilter is because we're just all self-sacrificing. So it's clearly not working, but the only way it's going to change is if we all become super conscious and aware of, well, how and where are we self-sacrificing? So this means becoming conscious of where we're directing our attention, how we are spending our time, and what is happening to our energetic cadence. This is fundamentally what my book is about. It's paying attention to those different rhythms. And you are custodian of your time. You are custodian of your energy. And if you don't feel that you are and you're disempowered, it's because you're conforming to a system that actually isn't serving you, but you are the one that needs to break away and out of that system. Because the minute you start preserving yourself, funnily enough, you start to become more grounded. You become a lot stronger and your work actually improves, your productivity improves because you are putting the oxygen mask on first. I would invite your listeners to really think about productivity today. What is productivity like? Now, I know from my own previous experience, I have slipped into frenetic productivity, wearing the badge of busy, being proud about being stacked, slammed, so incredibly busy, and just running on the treadmill and thinking that meant I was wanted, needed, and delivering. Thinking that was how I was contributing. But actually now I've come to recognize when I feel a sort of a flush, I get a flush. If I'm starting to get into a hyper productive state, I feel a flush. And I don't just go, oh, that's menopause, that's hormones. I really go, hang on a minute. There's an imbalance in my body. I pay attention to the signals and then I pause and I stop. And I think, what am I actually doing? And what actually matters here? And if I feel particularly frenzied and I can't bring myself down in that particular environment or whatever, I'll leave. I will leave. I've been known to leave office buildings to just go and sit in the rain with my journal and then come back into a meeting 15 minutes late, but a grounded, solid, more stable version of me, better able to contribute, better able to make decisions. So I've come to recognize the frenetic, frantic state doesn't serve anybody, not my children, not my colleagues, not teams. It's not the state to be in. I don't get in that state anymore because now I prioritize nourishing myself. I've learned what nourishes me. And I've learned it's not another coffee. It's not another workout. I've learned for me, it's being by myself. I do like to lie under a tree. I'm lucky.
Yeah, you said that.
And so I will do that. That's how I regulate myself. And so I've learned to understand what I need. Now, in a corporate environment, if you're in the office and you're bouncing from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, and it's really hard if you don't manage your calendar, how do you get that pocket of time to ground and be present in the maelstrom of the busy, busy day? Now, you can do something as simple as this little magic 10-second hack that I've got, where you can go into the toilets, or you can do it in a board meeting under the desk, where you simply rub your thumb against your first 2 forefingers.
Like this?
Yeah, just do that really slowly. And as you do it, breathe in through your nose and take the breath all the way down into your belly. And just inflate the belly. Like, imagine when you see a baby lying on their side and how the belly rises up and down. This is how we're meant to breathe. We're meant to take deep, big belly breaths, because that is the beautiful way that we connect into ourselves. It's how we nourish our bodies. We just take a few seconds to become aware of the physical sensation of skin on skin. Whilst we're doing the breathing, it instantly drops us down into a very grounded, steady state. It pulls the body back into homeostasis. And you can do that in 10 seconds. That's something we've all got access to. It gets us out of the head, where there's so many swirls and the endless task lists, and brings us down into the body. This is something that I encourage everybody to learn, to practice, to just have up their sleeves, and to just start becoming conscious. Stop letting life happen to you. Stop being swept along, and just start to very consciously become aware of the body's signals and pay attention and really be defiant in that. No, I need a break right now. No, I need to stop. No, I'm not going out tonight. No, sorry, that holiday doesn't look rejuvenating. I need to be alone. No, I can't read another book. I need silence and darkness. No, I need a bath. Whatever it is, it's just boundaries. Shed the people, shed the habits. I haven't watched the news for about 5 years. I don't want that invading. I curate everything I learn, everything that comes in. It's just very selective based on what I know will help me grow and expand and make my work better. That's something that we all have access to.
Yeah, I really love the boundary setting, and I really appreciate that tip of what you can do in those 10 seconds, because honestly, as you know, working in our industry, it can be literally back-to-back meetings, and you see so many people just running around, oh, I have a call, I have a call, I have a meeting, and doing meetings and replying to emails. So getting this little tip to have that 5-10 seconds where you get back into being more grounded is extremely useful. And I really appreciate what you say about learning to say no in a nutshell and setting the boundaries of what you want and don't want. I was fortunately a part of a corporation where we had a professional come in and we learned, I don't even remember the exercise, but it was a really great exercise because we uncovered what our core values were, and basically like your top 3, and there were 3 that were just absolutely paramount to you, and then I think maybe a few more that were also important but not your primary. And that exercise really sticks with me, and I'm bringing that up because throughout this conversation I think that's something that's probably useful for people who are at the starting line of trying to identify what is an energy suck and what those boundaries look like, because you also talked a lot about doing the things that fulfill you. And I think that before you can actually do that, you need to know what's important to you as an individual and what values you hold high in your heart. And even, for instance, when you talked about your relationship, the 26-year relationship, and how you had a divorce, that it kind of came down to some of these things. That's something that I hear frequently. Do you have any tips and tricks on how to uncover some of these values? Do you have any exercise that someone could do to know, okay, well, this is clearly something that means a lot to me?
Definitely. And you're right. The values are our guiding light posts, really.
Yeah, I call them sometimes my non-negotiables. That's what I like to say.
Exactly. Because when you know the non negotiables, then it's very easy to make a decision. Like we were talking before we started filming about, for me, breastfeeding my twins was a conscious choice. And I knew I couldn't manage business expansion at that period. I just knew it was a non negotiable. I was going to have that era for a couple of years that was about nourishing 4 young children. And that was that era. And that's fine. No guilt, no quandaries, because that was my value. So I was very intentional. The best way to identify values is to do an exercise. It's in my book called the peak experience exercise, which is where I invite anyone just to take time to get into a favorite comfy position, pajamas, cozy socks, whatever it is, and give yourself the space with a journal and soft mood lighting, I would say. Set the scene, just be relaxed, be alone. And then really think about a favorite happy memory. Just tune in to a happy memory. And when I do this in workshops, I bring everyone into a meditative, slightly semi-hypnotic state. Then I invite everyone to start thinking about a favorite memory. That particular memory, if you're at home, you've honed in on what it is, then I invite you to start writing in your journal and just free write for 10 to 15 minutes all about that memory and describe the richness of it in every detail, from who was there, what it felt like, what it smelt like, how it felt, what color the sky was, what you ate, just all the rich details, and just write and write and write and describe what felt so good. And really just let your mind transport back into that and make it really kind of technicolor and vibrant. Then have a break and go away, have a cup of tea, make dinner, whatever. And then come back and read what you wrote. As you dissect and go through the pages or the paragraph, however you choose and chose to capture it, just pick out key descriptive words or themes, because you will see values absolutely bouncing out from that description, and start writing down a list of different values and identifying what they are, and pick out as many as you like. So even if you've got 10, 20, or however many values come out, and then do the exercise of really feeling into those different values and just tuning in. So you go a level deeper into, well, is family one of my top values, or is vibrant work or vitality a good one, or whatever. Feel into it until you then create your shortlist, which is your top 5. And then when you've identified those top 5 values and you feel really like, oh yeah, that's an absolute, that makes me feel expansive, just imagining that being honored in every aspect of my life, then do an exercise where you look at work, you look at family, you look at relationships, whatever dimensions, money, whatever aspects of your life that you want to look at, and then basically score those different life dimensions based on those values. And you'll very quickly get a map of where there's some dissonance or some kind of compromise, and you will see straight away, okay, that's what needs to change.
Wow, that's so powerful. I love it. It's so helpful. I am actually going to do the exercise because I haven't done it in that way. I think that's an amazing place to leave it. Bianca, thank you. This conversation has just been so thrilling, and you've really given a great reminder that energy isn't something that we run out of. It's something that we create. It's something that we can master, and it's so incredibly powerful for every area of our life. I really love the message that you gave, which is that we need to fill our own cup and we need to be full in order to help serve other people. And it's just really showing that to be a super gene, you don't need to be burnt out. Burnout is not the price of ambition, and we need to protect our most precious resource, which is our energy, which is ultimately what I said at the beginning, our vitality. And that is exactly the super gene that I want everybody to walk away with today. And it starts with the moment that you decide you are worth protecting. Bianca, before we go, can you please just share where our listeners can find you and everything about you if they want to connect further?
Thank you. More information about me and all my work is on my website, biancabest.com. All my social handles are Bianca Best. And I would love it if you've enjoyed the conversation that we've had here today. If you would like to subscribe to my newsletter, where I write about connection on a regular basis. And it's all around how we connect to self, how we connect to each other, and connect to a greater purpose. And I really do believe that that's the key for all of us to thrive and step out of a world where we feel so much struggle. So I'm so honoured to have had this conversation with you, and I really hope that it's been useful and inspiring.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this message, I hope it reaches far and wide, because I think that so many people, not just women, need to hear it. So thank you again so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope you feel empowered from the episode. You can connect with me at supergeneunleashed.com and on Instagram at supergeneunleashed. Please share your thoughts, and I look forward to connecting with you. And until next time, keep on shining and showing the world your super gene.